the psychiatric industry is a scam to a certain point. Okay, let me explain. So whenever you go in and you get a medication, it can be a very dangerous situation when you're a person that's new to it and you don't really understand what's happening completely. And a lot of people don't really understand because sometimes they have a mental illness that makes them so they're zoned out of reality. They don't really understand the concept of psychiatry. They don't understand, like, they don't really get the full picture. They don't really understand the history of psychiatry. They don't understand modern psychiatry. They don't understand the techniques. They don't understand the theory. They don't understand the controversy. They don't understand what the fuck's going on. Like a lot of people in life, you know, they're ignorant and they don't understand a specific topic. And sometimes if you are smart enough to realize that you're ignorant, you know, then, you know, obviously you just know that you need to learn more on it before you can make a judgment, which I know that, like, me saying these things, you know, there might be points that other people can make that could, you know, point out flaws in what I'm saying or whatever. But here's the thing is, you know, medications can help you and therapy can help you, but sometimes when you get involved with that and you're not able to communicate to anyone really, you know, it's hard to really tell people the symptoms you're having when you're experiencing like psychosis or schizophrenia or depression or something. It can be hard for you to give them a realistic, you know, answer to, oh, how are you feeling? How are these medications treating you? You know? And it can be really hard to tell when it's worse. You know, and that's the thing. That's the danger of medications. Is, you know, you're taking this medication when you might have been better off not fucking taking it at all. And sometimes people go through recovery periods where they get to a point to where, you know, they've been taking it their whole life and they don't really understand that maybe it's more of a psychological thing where, you know, you're just feeding the fire, you're just believing in it, and it's not even a real thing at that point because you have such a high belief in the fact that you're fucking disabled and you're fucked up and you're paranoid and all this, that it's almost like an actor, how an actor goes into a role and they believe this fucking all these different things about them, you know, but obviously an actor does it on purpose. But if you think about that, how an actor goes into a role and some of them, you know, they use drugs to get a better you know, acting effect because they want to affect themselves psychologically. And you know, whenever you go into a doctor's office and you know, you just put so much fucking trust into that doctor, you know, they're not, and you know, there's been several instances where a person goes into a not even just a psychiatric clinic, but you know, a doctor's office at the hospital or something, or you know, where the doctor has an opinion and it's not always fucking correct. And no, I'm not saying to not trust a doctor, and you know, that's the thing where it gets really, you know, because psychiatry is different than, like, when it comes to psychiatry, it's a lot different than, you know, psychological problems are different than like physical problems like a heart attack or something. You know, it, like, these issues could be way different than other medical issues. And psychology is something that it can be very based, like it can be based on the individual more than anything. So say that, like, I believe there's nothing wrong with me, right? And even in courtrooms you see this all the time. A person will say, this person's mentally ill, this person's fucking misbehaving, this person has this problem, whatever, and then in the courtroom the other person can argue that, you know, there's nothing wrong with them or whatever. And that can be the same thing. Like, if I were to, like, just have an opinion of myself that there was nothing wrong with me, then I would never be subjected. And if I was never paying attention to it either, you know, I would never be subjected to being mentally ill because I would always have an opinion of myself that I upheld. And that's the thing, is people can make it think, they can really dramatize it, and they can make, like, it really depends, because sometimes you can just hallucinate it. You know, it can be psychological. It can be something that you induce on yourself because you don't want to accept reality, or, you know, whatever the fuck. And I know that's an actual diagnosis. That's an actual thing that people do, where it's like it's not even really actually happening. You know, the whole mental illness thing, so much as you're just feeding it. And I guess I was just already talking about that, but you know, it's like when you go in and you get on these medications, it can be so hard for you to communicate to your doctor, you know, I'm having symptoms, this is worse, you know, I'm worse than I was before, or, you know, because sometimes the medication can make it feel like you're better, but it's actually worse. Because like it's weird, you know, and whenever you get on, like, because, you know, you go in, and that's the part about it, that's the loophole, dude, is if you really start to stand back and you start to understand it, you know, they're running fucking advertisements for medications, man. And I get that these people, you know, they made the medication for a reason. It's directed to help people with certain conditions and all this, but it's a fucking business, dude. It's a fucking business. And the counselors, psychiatrists, whatever, they can tell you they care all they want. It's still gonna be a fucking damn business, all right? And it's like, for me going and talking to a fucking psychiatrist, they can't, you know, they're, to a certain point, they're just a person that listens. You know, and I know that there's different social tactics and all this, but once you start to understand social tactics and how people can sort of convince you, you know, they can be a positive influence or a bad influence. And that's something, you know, and see, now I'm getting into something that's, I guess, kind of breaking away from what I was trying to make this short and sweet. But you know what I'm saying? Like, social tactics can influence you. And you have social tactics in your own head that influence you and make you believe things. And sometimes it's like, you know, for me, it was like, dude, I have to pull myself out of this. I can't live in this fucking world anymore. I can't accept this for myself. And it's like, dude, I just need to, like, believe that I'm not insane, or, you know, get my fucking life together and stop. You know, I don't know. It's like my mind would go into a dream state, and then once your mind goes into a dream state, you're interacting with your imagination, and it's like you can be in a dream state when you're awake, you know. And I think that's kind of what you know, there's a lot of things that I'm talking about in this that go deeper, and there's, you know, there's studies and all this. But when it really comes down to it, yeah, it's a fucking business. You go in, it can be hard to communicate to your doctor when you're having extreme symptoms. Say you're having psychosis, you know, depression, schizophrenia. These different things can be very subjective to the person, to where it's like the medication can make it worse and you don't realize it. You're not able to communicate it because you don't really know, you know, it can be really hard to tell, you know. So when you, and then, you know, it's like a psychiatrist, a doctor and stuff, that's their fucking job, dude. And whenever you go in there and they're willing to tell you you have problems and all this, and that's their opinion, and you can have an opinion, because people can be in denial too. So there's so much, like, the psychiatry industry is very unstable. Like, it's not really foolproof, and a lot of the time it's kind of bullshit when you have someone that's telling you you have issues over and over again. Oh, you're having homicidal thoughts, you need fucking medication. When it's like, well, yeah, I'm having homicidal thoughts, but it's not like I'm having homicidal thoughts like I'm gonna go do anything. It's not like I'm actually, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like I'm in control of my fucking life. I'm not, you know, some psycho who's gonna go kill people or whatever, you know what I mean? You know, and that's the thing too. Suicidal thoughts and homicidal thoughts can be very common for people. And they don't really have to have like a serious mental illness to have these thoughts, because sometimes it's just, you know, you get fucking pissed off and that's what happens, dude. You know, you think about killing someone, and, you know, and a person, and see, here's where it gets to the point where a person can be like, oh my God, you thought about killing someone, that's so serious, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, you know, like, people, we kill animals all the fucking time, and we eat them. You know what I'm saying? We murder fucking animals all the time and we eat them. It's part of survival. And when you think about that, so you thinking about killing another person isn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, if you're able to put yourself in that mind frame where you're aware of being your self-defense, especially like learning techniques to defend yourself. And I'm not saying that, like, I'm not talking about like premeditated murder, but I'm talking about just, having an understanding of murder in your emotions and what's going on in your head, to the point where it's like, well, it kind of diffuses itself to be like, oh, this person's having homicidal thoughts, but maybe it's not it's kind of an opinion. Because when they say, oh, you're having homicidal thoughts, let's get them on antipsychotics, it's like, well, I'm not, I'm just kind of this way, it's not like I'm actually going to kill anyone. But, whenever you think about that too, the death penalty, we have the death penalty in place for a reason. Whenever someone gets the death penalty, it's because they murdered someone else or something like that. They got sentenced that. And if you think about that, our society is built on, tooth for a tooth. And, there's different opinions on the death penalty and all that political shit. But, it kind of does come political to, like, for my side to be like, oh, I'm having homicidal thought. Now, that's what I'm saying, though. It's like people can get really on edge about it. And that's what's something that I realized is people can become so fucking touchy with it because they, and it's a real thing, mentally ill people go on these, a lot of the people that go on like murder sprees and shit are fucking mentally ill people. They have serious mental issues. And that's another thing is, the association, it's like you're not guilty by association. You know what I'm saying? Just because this person did, there are so many people that have the same type of mental illnesses that don't do these things. There's way more people that don't do those things than actually do those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's way more mentally ill people that live, like safe lives and stuff, even though they might have issues. But here, it's just this thing where it turns, the entire subject turns into this insane thing where it's just like, when you really look at it, no one should force you to take medications, dude. Even if it was by law that you took medications, you should not have to. Now, there are different situations, I guess, like if it was if you had to take it for your blood pressure or something. But if you had such an if you're coherent enough to have such a high opinion of yourself, or to have such a focused opinion, then you're probably not really mentally ill. If you can and that's what I'm saying for myself. Like, if I'm able to comprehend all this shit and be like, no, I'm not mentally ill, I'm completely fucking fine, I have normal emotions, I have normal thoughts and shit, and depending on what doctor I talk to, they could be like, here's some medications. And they do make, and I don't know if they make money directly, the doctor. I think they do get a cut of the medication. And that's the crazy part when you think about a doctor just handing out these fucking medications. They just want you, all they need is for you to give them a reason to give, you give them your history, you give them a fucking reason. Oh, they want to fucking, I've had doctors try to force medications on me, and they can have good intentions, but a lot of the time, I don't even think this video will get heard, actually. I've been trying to express this fucking opinion to a lot of people, and it seems like I get ignored a lot, and a lot of people, they don't understand what the fuck I'm talking about, because it can be irrelevant to them, or they don't really know enough about the situation. But, doctors that, crooked chiropractors that prescribe people opiates, you can go in there and say, oh, I have a back problem, and they give you fucking opiate prescription, and then that's a whole scandal how they push opiates and sell opiates because you can have a crooked doctor. And if you think about that, you can't. And I'm not saying don't trust your doctor or whatever, but like it does get to a point where it's like, okay, this person is just handing out medications, you know what I'm saying? And you don't really know what their intentions are, and sometimes you don't realize that sometimes they're just prescribing medications because they're getting paid from it, you know? And whenever you see a fucking company produce this medication and then they start running advertisements on the TV that are targeting people like me, it's like, you know, I reach a point where I'm like, I see these fucking commercials and I'm like, no, I'm good, you know. I can't do that anymore. And you know, and here's the thing is, I was on like 3 different types of medications. Okay, I was on like 3 different, and I've been at a lot of different medications at once at different times in my life. But when I finally quit medications, I was on like 3 different fucking types of medications: antidepressant, antipsychotic. And you know, I wasn't myself, and I was a little bit, you know, I might have been more through something, or you know, people, you know, whatever. But it gets to a point where it's like, dude, these are like tranquilizers. And just because, you know, some people could say I'm mentally ill because I have high energy, or I'm doing things that they don't approve of, or I'm misbehaving or whatever. They could say, oh, this guy you know, oh, this guy's mentally ill, he needs therapy, he needs medication, blah 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 blah. But it's like, what did I do? You know what I'm saying? I just made a video, put it online. I just posted something and put it online. You know, and I'm an artist and an actor and different stuff like that. And you know, a person could look at me and say, oh, you're an actor, you're mentally ill, you're not an actor. And it's like, no, fuck you, man. I'm a fucking actor. Go fuck yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that's where it reaches the controversy of opinion, where it's like, I have to hold it down for myself because I can't really fucking trust people. But I pretty much just, you know, I can't live that life anymore. And you know, I felt like I didn't, you know, I don't have to live in those bounds of the doctor tells me when to jump and how to do everything. And it can be dangerous if you don't listen to your doctor, because sometimes, you know, a lot of the time the medication can't help you and shit, you know what I'm saying? But it really just depends on the situation. And sometimes, you know, you get in a situation where you're going to have this shit lifelong or whatever. And some people don't have it lifelong. But whenever it's like a psychological thing where you do it to yourself, you know, you believe in it. You like, the doctor will tell you something about you, you know, you tell them a couple things, and then you know, you're on these fucking medications that can be dangerous, and it's like, dude, fuck this shit. You know, it gets to a point, it's like, fuck the psychiatry industry, man. I can't trust people. You know, and that's where it gets to the point where, you know, I've pretty much broken away from it. You know, I'm just like, whatever, dude. I don't have to go into the doctor's office. I don't have to do anything that I don't want to. And I'm fucking completely fine. And if you want to, you know, pick at me and be like, oh no, you're depressed and blah blah blah, and it's like, you're trying to tell me what the fuck I am. And that's another thing, is confidence too. You know, some people don't have confidence to make a stand for themselves and be like, okay, this is enough. And it, you know, but that's the thing is, you know, when you accept this thing as, you know, you accept it as permanent, you accept it as a disability, you accept it as something you're never going to overcome, it gets to a point to where it's like, you know, you're thinking of it negatively. And that's the thing too. It's just like, you know, I think of it as long as I can manage my own damn fucking life, then I'm fine. Now, anything other than that, it's like, well, I don't really think I need medication. And I think that's part of you know, I don't even really want to upload this video, because I'm basically just telling, like, I don't know. It's a lot of personal shit. But I've already made a bunch of videos, and I don't really care, and I don't think anyone's going to watch it anyway. But that's sort of the thing, you know, and it seems like a lot of people, they don't really understand what the fuck I'm trying to tell them. Because, you know, a doctor with a degree can have this opinion or whatever. Dude, I have like over 10 years experience with this shit, you know what I'm saying? I have over 10 years experience with the psychiatry industry. That's worth more than a 4-day, that can be worth more than a degree will ever give you, than a fucking career. Because as a patient, it's a different perspective than a fucking doctor. And and that's the thing, dude, is it comes to a controversy. And sometimes, like I said, people can dramatize it. They can make it worse on themselves because they're going to believe it. And that's all they can't psychologically break free from it. And I'm not saying that, oh yeah, if you just believe and you can think yourself out of it, essentially. But, it's kind of like shock treatment. And okay, I'm going to bring up shock treatment here real quick. When they shock you, I don't know everything about shock treatment and whatever, but whenever you get shocked, it does something to you to where it can, obviously they discontinued, they stopped doing shock treatment and all that. But I'm pretty sure, I guess I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure when they shock you, it causes you to it gives you a physical sensation to tell your brain, it's making you interact with reality kind of thing by giving you a physical sensation of being shocked. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like someone throwing a bucket of water on you when you're sleeping. You know what I'm saying? And I've been to points where I had to yell at myself and be like, whenever if you've ever experienced delusions, you know what I'm talking about, because you can be obsessive and it can go over and over. And there's different extremes, there's different points of it. And I got to a point where I had to yell at myself and be like, dude, calm down, or dude, this isn't real, and just confront it. And it's almost like now I know that I'm getting kind of a little bit loopy over here, but no, what is it? Hypnosis. It's, I do know that people can use hypnosis and that can be a real treatment and all that. And I don't really know the controversy around it too much. But I know it can be subjective to different people. And I do know that miracles do happen, and that's another thing. I know that miracles do happen. And sometimes it's a matter of the person getting themselves out of that psychological sort of cycle, where they start to believe in it so much that it controls everything. And then it's like the more you pay attention to it, the more it exists, but the more you drift away from it, it's like, well, it's irrelevant to me now because I'm better. You know what I'm saying? But, if you have an experience like me, then it'll always be relevant, and that's why I made this video, is to try to speak out. But hypnotherapy, I feel like I've used that on myself to be like, yo, even right now I could be like, yo, you're looking crazy in this video, make a new video where you explain things better, you're all over the place. So I could yell at myself and it'd be wake me up, kind of like shock therapy, and that's completely fucking different. But that right there, is something that tells me that, the psychological state you can put yourself in is just insane. And, I know that it can be very dangerous. It can be very dramatic. It can be something that the person can't just walk out of. And it can take years for the person to get out of it, And sometimes I think they have to get themselves out of it. They have to believe in themselves, and they have to fucking be able to make their choices and shit, because having a doctor controlling you is not the way to fucking live. Now, if the doctor, obviously there's, like I was saying before, obviously there's a lot of situations where, you should listen to the doctor, but so anyways, it does get to that point where you have to decide. And, I had to decide. And I feel like, because, some people, they go into remission and they come out of it. And I've heard about people going into their 30s. So they get into their 30s, right? and they come out of it, you know. And I'm 29 going on 30. I'm not too excited about that, but you know, it's crazy because I for a long time now, I'm just gonna say this video's went on long enough, and I don't think anybody's gonna watch this video, which is fine. I'm just making videos. But so for a long time I was like, man, because I heard about people going into remission and them, you know, basically experiencing a miracle in their life to where they come out of it, and you know, they don't have to deal with doctors or fucking medication or any of this bullshit where, you know, people are being all having sympathy for you and they're a counselor and they're gonna listen to you talk and stuff. Like, all that stuff's great, but you know, it gets to a certain point where it's like, man, I just cannot, I don't want to live this way anymore. But you know, people coming in, going into remission and stuff and coming out of it, especially with schizophrenia, and it can be drug induced too. And I'm not going to get into my whole drug history, but I have had a history of alcohol and other stuff. And anyways, with that, I guess this video is pretty much over. But that's one thing, I guess, for hope for anyone out there, is I was able to go in remission, and it was a difficult process for me to. I went through like a psychological transformation where I used visualization meditations and stuff, you know, using other things, because okay, I'm gonna explain this real quick. So when I discovered that essentially I was interacting with my imagination when it comes to voices and your emotions, and it can be a means of survival, and images that you have of different creatures in the wild can be associated with survival, you know what I'm saying? So when you look at a bear, you're like, you know, it can threaten you. You can have paranoia. You can have a heightened, you know, so it's a real thing then. But when you're in a setting where you're just sitting at home or whatever, and you're having these extreme thoughts, it's I think of it as like a mind glitch, because your mind can go into survival mode, and you're not necessarily needing to go into survival mode. You know what I mean? So that's what, and whenever you're in survival mode, you have extreme, intense thoughts. You know what I'm saying? And that and that's what trauma essentially is. You know, when they say, "Oh, I'm experiencing trauma," it's because you know, it's basically just a thing where you experience something very, you know, traumatic, and it leaves a scar on you, and then, you know, let's get into PTSD and stuff. But I see it as a way of interacting with your imagination, and a lot of the time it can be more of a culture than actually something that a doctor's like, oh, this or you need medications, you're fucking mentally ill, blah 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 blah. But I know that for me to talk, depending on what doctor I talk to and how long I talk to them, because sometimes you talk to a doctor for like 10 minutes and they get this fucking opinion on you and they want to give you medications. Like, dude, I literally just talked to you for like 10 minutes. And a lot of the time their appointments, they're not a therapy appointment. They're more of a, I'm going to prescribe you medication appointment. And it's just like, man, oh my God. It's just unbelievable sometimes how they just hand out medications like candy. Oh, you're mentally ill? Here's some candy. Oh, you're mentally ill? Some candy. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, oh my God, dude, I'm so sick of this bullshit. You know, you tell them one little thing that's wrong, they want to up your medications. I've actually grown to kind of hate a lot of psychiatry and stuff. Some of the people that are in it, because they can be kind of like crooks, you know, like psychiatry is some magical thing that only they know about, or only they can control, or only they have the magic wand or whatever. And it's like, no one really has the magic wand at all. That's the thing, you know. Even when you give someone medications, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, you know. And you know, a lot of people die. You know, a lot of people don't make it out alive. A lot of people don't live through it. And you know, not very many people get to the point where I've gotten with it. You know. So with that, I guess I'm gonna end this video. And I guess I'm gonna name this video "The Psychiatry Industry is a Scam," but I guess it's not a foolproof statement, but there are aspects to where it can just be a scam. And it can be this obsession that you live in that it's just like, man, I don't know. Okay. My last thing I'm going to say here is some people are experiencing very real mental illness, and some people get out of it. Some people make their own decisions. Some people get better. Some people need medications, some don't, but it can be very subjective to who's really getting helped or not. Who really needs it or not. Who's in a psychological delusion where they put themselves in that psychological delusion. And I've actually written a book on this called Thoughts of Mayhem on Amazon. I've also written a book called God the Cult, about how we interact psychologically with the community and religion. You can you can look my name up on Amazon, Seth Kinstall. I have several books on Amazon for sale. So with that, I'm going to end this video. Have a nice day. Please like and subscribe.